Jace tightened his backpack strap as he stepped out into the bustling dome of the Martian colony. The airlock hissed softly behind him, sealing him off from the endless red desert beyond. Sunlight filtered through the protective dome, painting the metallic walkways with warm gold. It was another ordinary day on the colony. Though Jace had learned that, on Mars, ordinary rarely lasted long. He carried a small stack of grocery packs, fruits grown in the hydroponics bay, protein bars, and a bottle of water fortified with vitamins. Miri, his best friend since childhood, had insisted he deliver the items herself. "Mom's been busy in the lab all morning," she had said. "She'll appreciate it if you help." Jace wasn't exactly thrilled about running errands, but he didn't argue. He liked carrying things. It made him feel useful, even if it was just groceries. As he walked past clusters of colonists chatting near the cafeteria, Jace noticed how strange life had become on Mars. There were no trees swaying in the wind, no birds singing in the sky. Instead, there were blinking lights, metal walkways, and the hum of machines. Yet, the humans had adapted surprisingly well. They worked together, laughed together, even celebrated birthdays under the dome. In a strange way, it was inspiring. He passed the hydroponics farm, where tall green stalks of wheat swayed in the artificial breeze of the air vents. A small group of scientists measured plant growth, scribbling notes on digital pads. The colony relied on them for survival. Without their careful planning, food would be scarce, and the harsh Martian environment would take its toll. Jace adjusted his grip on the grocery packs and headed toward the Corval residence. Dr. Lena Corval was Miri's mother, a brilliant scientist known for her work in genetic adaptation. People in the colony respected her. Some even feared her a little. She spent long hours in her lab, tinkering with experiments that Jace couldn't fully understand. But she was also kind, in her own quiet way. As he reached the Corval building, a small smile crept across his face. He liked this part of the colony, the residential section. It was quieter here, with soft lighting and the faint smell of cooking from various apartments. He could hear the faint hum of machinery, the heartbeat of life on Mars. He knocked on the door. No answer. He tried the handle unlocked. The door opened with a soft creak, revealing a neat apartment with walls lined with books and scientific diagrams. "Hello?" From the far end of the room, a figure appeared. It was Dr. Corval, her hair tied back in a messy bun, wearing a lab coat dusted with faint traces of soil and chemical powders. She looked up from her work and smiled a slow, deliberate smile that sent a small shiver down Jace's spine. "At last, it's just us," she said softly. Jace blinked, unsure how to respond. There was something in her tone, almost like she had been waiting for him, though he didn't know why. Hi, Dr. Corval. Miri asked me to bring you some groceries." She nodded, her eyes sparkling with a strange mix of relief and excitement. "Yes, of course. Thank you, Jace. You always manage to arrive at the perfect moment." Jace set the groceries down on the counter. He noticed the apartment was filled with curious objects. Small robotic drones hovered silently in corners, strange devices blinked on shelves, and diagrams of alien landscapes covered the walls. It was a mix of homey and scientific, comforting and intimidating at the same time. Dr. Corval gestured toward a chair. "Sit, please. I want to show you something important." Curiosity outweighed his nervousness. Jace sat down, balancing himself carefully on the chair as he glanced around. He noticed a strange device on the table, a helmet with wires and tiny blinking lights. "This," she began, her voice steady but tinged with excitement, "is a prototype exosuit. It's designed to enhance human strength, reflexes, and cognition. In short, it can make a person faster, smarter, and stronger, more capable than ordinary humans. And..." She paused, looking directly at Jace. "I need someone to test it." Jace nearly choked on his own surprise. "Test it? Me? But why?" She leaned forward, her eyes serious. "The colony faces dangers we cannot ignore. The Martian wildlife is evolving faster than we predicted. Some creatures are becoming aggressive, and our current defenses may not be enough. I've been working on this suit in secret, waiting for someone trustworthy to help, someone human. Jace's mind raced. Humans were clever, adaptable, and resilient. That was obvious to anyone living on Mars. But he had never thought of himself as extraordinary. Yet, here he was, sitting across from one of the colony's greatest minds, being asked to carry humanity's hope in a suit of technology. "Why me?" he asked quietly. "Because you think, you observe, you care," Dr. Corval said simply. "Most people would panic or refuse. But you might just succeed." Jace looked down at the suit, trying to imagine himself wearing it. Could he really do this? Could a simple human boy make a difference against something far bigger and stronger than himself? He thought of Miri, of the colony, of all the people relying on human ingenuity to survive here on Mars. I'll do it," he said finally, his voice firm. Her smile widened. "Good. Let's begin." Dr. Corval guided him through the first steps, putting on the suit, connecting neural interfaces, adjusting strength settings. Jace felt a surge of energy course through his body as the suit calibrated itself. Movements that once took effort now felt effortless. He could hear faint electrical signals in his head, feel the environment with sharper clarity. "This is just the beginning," she said, her tone almost reverent. "Once you learn to control it, you will be faster, smarter, stronger. But remember, the real strength comes from within. The suit only amplifies what is already there." Jace nodded, feeling a strange mixture of fear and exhilaration. He could imagine the possibilities helping the colony, protecting people, discovering things beyond what any human had seen. And yet, he also felt the weight of responsibility pressing down on him. They practiced simple movements at first, picking up heavy objects, leaping over obstacles, running with precision. Jace laughed in disbelief as he lifted crates that would have crushed him before. Every movement felt natural, almost like the suit was part of him. Dr. Corval watched him closely, occasionally giving advice or adjusting settings. "Focus," she said. "Your mind must guide the suit, not the other way around. You are human first, always." Hours passed like minutes. Jace barely noticed the time, lost in the thrill of discovery. And yet, through it all, the words, "Dr. Corval" had spoken earlier lingered in his mind. At last, "It's just us." He realized then that it wasn't just about testing a suit. It was about trust, about connection, about humans standing together in a world that was constantly testing their limits. In that moment, carrying groceries seemed like a distant memory. This was bigger. This was humanity's fight, and somehow, he was part of it. As the sun dipped behind the dome, casting long shadows across the lab, Jace felt a quiet determination settle over him. Whatever challenges lay ahead, he knew one thing. Humans had a way of surviving, of thriving, even in the most impossible circumstances. And maybe, just maybe, one human could make a difference. Dr. Corval finally leaned back, her expression softening. "Rest now," she said. "Tomorrow, we begin the real work. The colony may not know it yet, but it needs you." Jace nodded. For the first time that day, he felt a sense of purpose. He had carried groceries for a friend's mom, but now, he carried something far greater, the hope of humanity, the potential for survival, and the spark of ingenuity that had brought humans to Mars in the first place. And as he left the lab, the words echoed in his mind once more. At last, it's just us. This time, he understood. It wasn't about isolation. It was about connection, trust, and the undeniable strength of being human. Outside, the Martian wind howled faintly against the dome. Inside, life continued buzzing, blinking, growing, and waiting for humans to rise to the challenge. And rise they would. The next morning, the soft Martian light spilled through the dome as Jace stepped into Dr. Corval's lab again. The air hummed with quiet energy, blinking lights, whirring machines, and the faint smell of warm metal. Everything seemed alive, pulsing with purpose. Jace's backpack was empty this time. There were no groceries, no errands. Today, he was here for something much more serious. Dr. Corval was already at her workbench, adjusting small components on a device that looked like a combination of a helmet and a glove. She looked up and smiled when she saw him. "Ready?" she asked. Jace nodded, a mix of excitement and nervousness tightening in his chest. He had spent the previous night thinking about the exosuit, replaying the movements he had practiced. Even in his sleep, the idea of enhanced strength and speed had filled him with energy. "Good," she said, guiding him to a reinforced platform in the center of the lab. "Today, you will learn to control the suit fully. It is not just about strength. Reflexes, speed, and thinking fast are equally important. This suit is a tool, but your mind must lead." Jace carefully stepped onto the platform. The exosuit was sleek and metallic, with joints that adjusted to his body automatically. Tiny sensors attached to his skin connected to the neural interface. Dr. Corval's fingers flew across a control pad, and a soft hum filled the room. "Begin," she said. Jace raised his hands, and immediately, the suit responded. He felt lighter, faster, and stronger. It was as if he had become something more than human, yet still himself. He lifted a heavy crate with ease, then gently placed it down. "Good," Dr. Corval said. "Now, try moving faster. React to the obstacles I will release." At her command, small mechanical drones zipped across the platform. Jace dodged, jumped, and ducked, his body moving with a precision he had never known. Each movement was mirrored by the suit, amplifying his speed and coordination. He felt exhilaration, and for a moment, pure joy. "You're improving quickly," Dr. Corval said. "But remember, don't rely only on the suit. Think, anticipate, and stay calm. The moment you panic, the suit will only magnify mistakes." Jace nodded, wiping sweat from his brow. The exercises grew harder. Some drones simulated attacks, while others tested his agility with fast, unpredictable movements. He stumbled once, nearly losing balance, but instinct and the suit's support saved him. After hours of training, Dr. Corval finally called a pause. "Enough for today," she said. "You've done very well. Now, I need to show you something critical. Something I could not show yesterday." Curiosity sparked inside Jace as she led him to a reinforced section of the lab. Behind a heavy sliding door, a holographic map of the colony lit up the wall. Red markers blinked across the edges, showing areas of danger outside the dome. "Look at this," she said. "These are zones where Martian creatures have been spotted. They're evolving faster than we predicted. Small packs have become aggressive, and there are signs that larger predators are developing hunting strategies. Ordinary humans cannot defend against them." Jace stared at the map. The red markers pulsed like warning lights, reminding him of how fragile life was on Mars. "So, what happens if they get inside the colony?" he asked, a lump forming in his throat. Dr. Corval's eyes were serious. "We survive because humans adapt. And sometimes, we must become something more than ordinary to survive. That is why I built this suit. Not to replace humans, but to give us the edge we need." Jace swallowed hard. The responsibility pressed on him, heavy and real. He was no longer just a boy delivering groceries. He was someone who might stand between the colony and disaster. Dr. Corval leaned close, lowering her voice. "You are my first volunteer. That is why it had to be just us yesterday. I needed to see if you could trust me, if you could focus. Tomorrow, the real challenge begins." "What challenge?" Jace asked. "You will go outside the dome," she said simply. "Not far, but enough to encounter Martian wildlife. The goal is observation. First, learn how they move, how they think. It is dangerous, but necessary. Humans survive by learning, by adapting, and by being brave when others hesitate. Icon 70, Jace felt his heart race. Outside the dome? On Mars? With the evolving wildlife? His stomach churned with fear. But deep down, a spark of determination ignited. He had trained with the suit. He had learned to trust it. He could do this. The next morning, they prepared for the first test outside the dome. Jace put on the suit carefully, adjusting each joint and sensor. Dr. Corval checked every connection, double-checking the life support systems. "You will face unknown creatures," she said. "Some may be curious, some aggressive. Your goal is not to fight, at least. Not yet. Observe, record, and survive. Trust your instincts, and the suit will guide you." Jace nodded, gripping the edge of the airlock. His pulse thumped in his ears. With one last look at the lab, he stepped outside. The Martian wind hit him, cold and dry, whipping against his helmet. The landscape stretched endlessly, red and barren, with jagged rocks and rolling dust dunes. At first, nothing happened. Jace walked cautiously, each step measured. The suit made his movements effortless, and he could sense every vibration in the ground, every faint sound in the air. It was like seeing Mars in high definition, every detail clear and precise. Then he heard a low growl from behind a distant rock formation. He froze, instincts screaming. A creature emerged roughly the size of a large dog but with limbs that moved with unnatural speed. Its skin shimmered faintly in the Martian light, like a living metal. Jace's mind raced. "Observe. Don't panic." He raised his hand slightly, and the suit reacted, scanning the creature. Data flowed into his vision. Speed, movement patterns, aggression level. The creature growled again, circling him cautiously. Jace took a step back, matching its movements, careful not to provoke it. Slowly, he realized it wasn't attacking, just assessing him. He noted its behavior, memorizing every detail. After several tense minutes, the creature backed away, disappearing behind rocks. Jace exhaled, heart pounding, but with a smile breaking across his face. He had survived. He had learned, and he had observed. Dr. Corval's voice crackled over the suit's communication link. "Excellent. You stayed calm. That is exactly what I hoped for. Now, gather more data and return to the dome." Jace moved carefully, jotting mental notes, taking observations, and using the suit to keep his speed steady. Each step reminded him that humans could survive here, on this harsh, alien world, because of adaptability, courage, and cleverness. By the time he returned to the dome, the sun had begun to set, painting the sky with deep reds and purples. Dr. Corval was waiting, her eyes filled with pride. "You did well today," she said. "Remember, humanity's greatest strength is its ability to adapt. Today, you proved that. Tomorrow, we push further. We learn more. And one day, these creatures will respect humans, not just fear them." Jace nodded, exhausted but exhilarated. He had carried groceries for a friend's mom yesterday, and today he had faced the unknown, surviving because humans are capable, clever, and resilient. The spark of human ingenuity burned brighter in him than ever. As he walked back to his small living quarters under the dome, he realized something profound. Mars was dangerous, unpredictable, and unforgiving. But humans were extraordinary. And maybe, just maybe, one person could make a difference if they had courage, determination, and a little help from ingenuity. The red Martian sky stretched above, endless and silent. Yet inside Jace, a fire burned, a fire of hope, strength, and the unshakable belief that humans would thrive, no matter how alien the world became. And in the quiet of the night, he could still hear the words Dr. Corval had whispered yesterday. "At last, it's just us." This time, the meaning was clear. It was about trust, growth, and the promise of humanity standing tall, even on the edge of the unknown. The morning sun barely touched the Martian horizon when Jace stepped into Dr. Corval's lab. The soft hum of machinery filled the room, and the air smelled faintly of warm metal and ozone. Today was not another simple training session. Today, he would face his first real test outside the dome, a controlled encounter with Martian wildlife. Dr. Corval stood beside the exosuit, her expression serious but calm. "Today," she said, "we take the next step. The outside world is unpredictable. You must trust yourself and the suit. Pay attention to everything. Movement, sound, patterns. Humans survive by learning first, fighting second." Jace nodded. He had spent hours practicing the suit's movements yesterday, mastering agility, reflexes, and balance. But facing real Martian creatures was different. The unknown stretched before him like the endless red desert, and his stomach twisted with nervous excitement. They moved to the airlock. Outside, the Martian terrain spread endlessly: jagged rocks, swirling dust, and hills painted in shades of red and orange. The colony was visible in the distance, a patch of silver and glass against the barren landscape. Dr. Corval checked his suit one last time. "Sensors are online, communications stable. Remember, observe first, react second. If you panic, the suit cannot save you. Control your mind." Jace took a deep breath and stepped outside. The Martian wind hit his face, cold and sharp, carrying a faint metallic tang. The ground was firm but uneven, making each step a careful calculation. He could feel the suit adjusting to his body, amplifying movements while keeping him balanced. For the first few minutes, everything was quiet. He walked slowly, scanning the terrain, his senses heightened by the suit. The wind shifted, and he caught a flicker of movement behind a distant rock. His pulse quickened. A creature emerged. It was small, no larger than a human child, but with translucent, shimmering skin that reflected the sunlight like glass. Its limbs moved unnaturally fast, bending in directions that should have been impossible. Jace froze, instincts screaming, "Observe. Don't panic," he reminded himself. The creature sniffed the air and made a soft clicking sound. The suit's interface highlighted its movement patterns, showing predicted paths and reaction times. Jace studied it carefully, stepping aside as it darted past him. He realized this creature was curious, not aggressive, testing him, studying him, just as he studied it. He moved slowly, noting its behavior, and after a tense few minutes, it disappeared behind rocks. Jace exhaled, relief washing over him. He had survived the first encounter. Dr. Corval's voice came through the suit's communicator. "Excellent. Stay alert. The next test will challenge your reflexes further." Jace pressed on, moving toward a canyon marked as a wildlife observation zone. The ground here was rougher, and the wind stronger, carrying swirling red dust. His suit adjusted automatically, stabilizing each step and increasing his speed without effort. Suddenly, a loud roar echoed through the canyon. Jace froze. Ahead, a larger predator emerged at least 3 times his size, with thick armored plates along its back and glowing eyes that scanned the landscape. Its limbs were long and powerful, and its tail lashed the ground, kicking up dust. "Stay calm. Observe." He crouched behind a rock, studying its movements. The creature sniffed, circled, and let out a low growl. Jace noticed its hunting strategy. It approached slowly, then lunged unpredictably, testing for weaknesses. Humans had faced predators for millennia, and instinct guided him now. He moved quietly, using the suit's agility to shift from cover to cover. The creature's eyes followed him, and every muscle in Jace's body tensed. He felt fear, yes, but also focus, the sharp clarity that only comes when survival depends entirely on you and your mind. At one point, the predator lunged in his direction. Jace rolled sideways, landing with perfect balance, the suit absorbing impact and keeping him steady. He could feel the suit analyzing the creature's speed, anticipating its next attack. With each movement, he learned, adapted, and became faster. Minutes felt like hours. Dust swirled around him, and the predator's growls echoed through the canyon. But Jace stayed focused. He began to predict its moves, dodging, ducking, and weaving with precision. The suit responded seamlessly, enhancing his human instincts instead of replacing them. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the predator retreated behind a ridge, leaving Jace standing in the canyon. He exhaled heavily, adrenaline pumping through him. His hands shook, but he felt a thrill unlike anything before he had faced the unknown, survived, and learned. "Good," Dr. Corval's voice said through the communicator. "You stayed calm under pressure. That is the most important skill a human can have. The suit is a tool, but your mind is your greatest weapon." Jace walked back toward the colony, noting every movement, every sound, every pattern of the creatures he had encountered. He realized something profound. Humans survived not because they were the strongest, fastest, or largest, but because they were adaptable. They could observe, learn, and outthink any threat. Back at the dome, Dr. Corval greeted him with a mixture of relief and pride. "You did more than survive, you learned. That is humanity's greatest strength, the ability to understand, to adapt, and to act decisively." Jace smiled, exhausted but exhilarated. I never thought I could do that," he admitted. "It's amazing and terrifying, all at once." She nodded. "Exactly. The unknown is always both, but humans thrive in the unknown. That is why we are here, why we survive, and why we will continue to push boundaries." End quote. After resting and analyzing the data he had collected, Jace realized just how much humans had accomplished on Mars. A small colony, isolated and vulnerable, had not only survived, but thrived. And it was because humans refused to give up, refused to be defeated by the alien world around them. As night fell over the dome, the sky outside turned deep crimson. Stars glimmered faintly through the thin Martian atmosphere. Distant and cold, yet inspiring. Jace lay on his bed, exhausted, but his mind buzzed with possibilities. He thought about the creatures he had observed, their strength, their speed, their unpredictability, and he thought about himself. A human boy who had once carried groceries, now standing on the edge of discovery and survival. Humans adapt, humans endure, humans thrive. The words repeated in his mind like a mantra. He realized that no matter what Mars threw at them, predators, dust storms, or scarcity, humans could overcome it. With courage, intelligence, and ingenuity, they could survive anything. Dr. Corval's earlier words echoed in his thoughts. At last, it's just us. This time, Jace understood completely. It wasn't just about him testing the suit, it was about trust, connection, and the shared strength of humanity. In moments of uncertainty and danger, humans had each other, and together, they were unstoppable. He drifted into sleep with a new understanding of what it meant to be human on Mars. It was not enough to be strong or fast. Humans survived because they were clever, adaptable, and determined. And now, with the suit enhancing his abilities, Jace felt ready to face whatever came next. The Martian wind whispered outside, carrying dust across the barren landscape. But inside the dome, life pulsed steadily. Humans worked, learned, and thrived. And one small boy had discovered that even in the face of danger, human ingenuity could shine brighter than fear. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, perhaps even more dangerous creatures. But Jace was ready. The first real test was over, and he had passed. Mars was harsh and unforgiving, but humans had something no predator could ever match: the ability to think, to learn, and to overcome. And with that thought, Jace finally slept, dreaming of red deserts, glowing creatures, and the limitless potential of humanity. The alarm blared through the dome, sharp and urgent. waking Jace from his light sleep. Red lights flashed along the walls, casting everything in an eerie glow. He sat up, heart pounding, and immediately knew something was wrong. Emergency. All personnel report to defense stations. The automated voice echoed. Jace jumped out of bed, quickly donning his exosuit. The previous days of training, the observations outside the dome, all of it had led to this moment. Today, he would face a real threat, one that could endanger the entire colony. He raced through the corridors toward the command center. The hallways were filled with people rushing, securing equipment, and readying defenses. Normally, the colony was calm, efficient, almost quiet. Now, chaos and urgency filled every space. Dr. Corval was already at the command station, scanning data and giving instructions. She looked up as Jace arrived, her eyes intense but focused. "Jace, they've breached the outer perimeter," she said. "Several packs of creatures larger than anything we've observed. They're heading toward the residential sector. We need you out there. Can you do this?" Jace nodded, tightening the straps of his exosuit. "I can. I'll hold them off until you organize the defenses." "Good," she said. "Remember what we practiced. Stay calm. Observe. Adapt. Protect the colony." He sprinted toward the breach point. The exosuit responded instantly, amplifying his speed and agility. The ground beneath his boots felt lighter than ever, and his movements were precise and effortless. As he neared the outer wall, the sounds of destruction grew louder, rocks crashing, metal bending, creatures growling. The first group of creatures appeared over a ridge. They were larger than he expected, their armored hides reflecting the red Martian sunlight. Their movements were fast and coordinated, almost intelligent. Jace's mind raced. Observe, adapt, survive. He dodged a lunging creature, rolling to the side as the exosuit absorbed the impact. He noticed the patterns in their attacks. They tried to corner, to overwhelm, but each creature moved independently at first, then coordinated with the others. Jace grabbed a piece of broken metal piping and held it defensively. He didn't want to fight unnecessarily, but he had to protect the colonists. The creatures charged again. He sidestepped, using the suit's enhanced reflexes to anticipate their movements. He remembered Dr. Corval's words. Humans survive because they adapt. He used the terrain to his advantage, leaping from rocks, ducking behind ridges, and forcing the creatures into tight spaces where their size became a disadvantage. Each movement was calculated, combining instinct with the suit's abilities. A creature lunged at a colony worker who had been repairing the perimeter. Jace reacted instantly, grabbing it and pushing it away with amplified strength. It stumbled, allowing the worker to escape. He realized the suit was not just a weapon, it was a tool to protect, guide, and enhance human action. More creatures advanced, bigger and faster than before. Dust and debris filled the air, and the roar of the alien predators echoed across the canyon. Yet Jace felt a strange calm. He had trained for this. He had observed. He understood. He began to coordinate with the other colonists. Using gestures and calls, he guided them to safer positions, helping to form a defensive line. Some fired energy pulses from the colony's defensive turrets. Others used barriers and nets to slow the creatures. Jace moved between them, his exosuit amplifying every action. He lifted fallen barriers to protect colonists, used his speed to divert attacking creatures, and dodged attacks that would have crushed an ordinary human. Every action demonstrated what humanity could achieve with intelligence, courage, and collaboration. Despite the danger, a spark of excitement lit inside him. Humans had always survived against stronger predators on Earth, and here they were again, standing together, fighting, and thriving. It was terrifying, yes, but also exhilarating. As the battle continued, Jace noticed a particularly large predator approaching, bigger than the others, with jagged, armored scales along its back and claws capable of ripping through metal. It moved with strategy, circling the colony's food supply. He realized it was thinking, testing defenses, looking for weakness. Ordinary humans would panic, but Jace had observed, learned, and adapted. He sprinted forward, dodging attacks from smaller creatures, and confronted the large predator directly. Using the exosuit, he jumped onto a nearby rock, gaining height and momentum. He moved with precision, striking the creature with controlled force, pushing it back without harming it fatally. He wanted it to retreat, not destroy. Humans could survive without unnecessary violence, but they had to be clever. The creature hesitated. Then, as if recognizing Jace's strength and determination, retreated behind rocks. The smaller creatures, seeing the large one fall back, scattered as well. The immediate threat ended. Jace exhaled, heart pounding, sweat and dust coating his suit. He looked around at the colony, no lives lost, minimal damage, and colonists watching in awe. Humans had faced a superior predator and survived. It was not just luck, it was intelligence, courage, and the ability to adapt under pressure. Dr. Corval appeared at the perimeter, running toward him. "You did it," she said, her voice filled with pride. "You kept the colony safe. Humans always survive because we think, we adapt, and we protect each other. You proved that today." Jace felt a wave of relief and satisfaction. He had feared the unknown, faced it, and survived. The exosuit had been a tool, yes, but the true power had been his mind, his instincts, and his courage. As the dust settled, colonists gathered around, cheering and clapping. Jace realized something profound. Humans did not need to be the strongest, the fastest, or the largest. They thrived because they worked together, learned from challenges, and never gave up. He caught Dr. Corval's eye and nodded. "We did it. Together." "Yes," she said, smiling. "Together. That is humanity's greatest strength. Not the suit, not the tools, but the people, courage, intelligence, and unity." That night, as the colony repaired the damage and restored defenses, Jace reflected on the day's events. He had carried groceries yesterday, observed creatures the day before, and today he had faced a real threat, standing between predators and the people he cared about. Each step reminded him of what humans could achieve: resilience, courage, and the ability to rise above danger. He went to his quarters, exhausted but alive, and thought about the Martian sky through the dome. Stars twinkled faintly, distant and cold, yet full of possibilities. Humans were small in the vast universe, but they could survive, adapt, and thrive. The creatures outside were dangerous, yes, but humans had something no predator could ever match: mind, courage, and unity. As he lay down, Jace recalled Dr. Corval's words from when he first entered the lab. "At last, it's just us." That phrase had meant something different yesterday. Now, after facing real danger, he understood its full meaning. It was about trust, connection, and the undeniable power of humans when they stood together and relied on each other's strengths. Outside, the Martian wind whispered through the dome, carrying dust and the faint scent of iron. Inside, the colony was alive, repairing, learning, and preparing for whatever challenges might come next. And Jace knew that humans would rise to meet them, as they always had. Tonight, Mars had tested them, and humanity had prevailed. Not because of sheer strength, but because of cleverness, courage, and the unyielding human spirit. Jace had carried groceries for a friend's mom, and now he had carried the hope of the colony on his shoulders. The red sky faded into darkness, but the fire within him burned brighter than ever. Humans were small, vulnerable, and fragile yet unstoppable, when they chose to act with wisdom, courage, and heart. And in that quiet moment, he whispered to himself, "We survive. We endure. We thrive." The colony slept under the protective dome, safe for now, and Jace drifted into a deep, well-earned sleep, dreaming not of fear, but of possibility, discovery, and the strength of humanity in the face of the unknown. The Martian dawn broke slowly over the colony, casting soft orange light across the domes and metallic walkways. After the night of chaos, the colony was quiet for the first time in hours. Repairs were underway, and life began to return to its usual rhythm. but the memory of the previous day lingered in every mind. Jace stepped out of his quarters, stretching and feeling the suit's weight still adjusting to his movements. Despite the exhaustion, he felt an unusual energy. The adrenaline had faded, leaving behind a quiet sense of accomplishment. Yesterday, he had faced creatures larger, faster, and stronger than any human. Yet, humanity had survived because they thought, adapted, and worked together. Dr. Corval was already at the lab entrance, waiting. Her eyes were bright, a mixture of pride and anticipation. "Good morning, Jace," she said. "Rested?" "More or less," he replied with a small smile. "But I feel different, like I can do more now." "Exactly," she said. "That is what happens when you survive. When you adapt. When you learn from the unknown. Today, we build on that. Humanity does not just survive danger. We grow stronger because of it." Jace followed her into the lab. The room looked almost the same as before, but everything felt charged with purpose. The exosuit stood ready, and other volunteers were preparing to train. The colony had decided to expand the program. If a small group of humans could face Martian predators and survive, then perhaps more could be trained to protect the settlement. "Today," Dr. Corval said, "you are not just testing the suit. You are teaching. Every skill you have learned, every observation you have made, will help others survive. We are creating a small force humans who can thrive outside the dome and defend the colony." Jace's stomach tightened with a mixture of excitement and responsibility. He had never imagined himself as a leader or a teacher. Yet here he was, about to pass on the knowledge that had allowed him to survive. He felt the weight of humanity's potential in his hands, but also the thrill of shaping its future. Training began immediately. Jace moved with the suit, demonstrating maneuvers, agility exercises, and observational techniques to the new volunteers. Some were skeptical at first, unsure if ordinary humans could face the Martian wilds. But watching him dodge simulated attacks, leap across obstacles, and respond with precision, their doubts slowly vanished. "Focus," Jace instructed, echoing Dr. Corval's words. "Observe first, act second. Panic is your enemy. Adaptation is your friend. Humans survive because we can think, learn, and react. That is our strength, not brute force, not claws or teeth, but intelligence, courage, and unity." Hours passed as the group trained. Outside, the Martian landscape stretched endlessly, silent and dangerous. Occasionally, creatures wandered near the observation zones, allowing the trainees to watch from a distance. Jace guided them, pointing out movements, patterns, and strategies. By the end of the session, each volunteer had a clearer understanding of survival, movement, and awareness in the alien environment. When the sun reached its highest point, Dr. Corval gathered the group. "You have all learned much today," she said, "but survival is more than training or technology. It is about humans standing together. Look around you. Every person here is part of the colony. Together, you are stronger than any threat outside the dome. This is what makes humans extraordinary. Not the exosuit, not the tools, but your mind, your courage, and your unity." Jace watched the volunteers absorb her words, their eyes bright with determination. A sense of pride welled inside him. He had carried groceries for a friend's mom not long ago, thinking it was a small, simple act. Now, he had helped prepare humans to survive on Mars, facing dangers that once seemed insurmountable. One small human had become a spark for others, an example of what humans could achieve. As evening approached, the colony held a brief meeting to reflect on the recent attacks and repairs. Jace, Dr. Corval, and the volunteers stood before the community. The colonists listened intently, impressed by the courage and adaptability of the young humans who had faced the predators. "Humans survive," Jace said, his voice calm but confident. "Not because we are the strongest, not because we are the fastest. We survive because we adapt, because we work together, because we never give up. The creatures outside the dome are dangerous, but they cannot match our intelligence, courage, or unity. And together, we will thrive. The colonists cheered, some clapping, others nodding with understanding. There was no doubt in anyone's mind humans were capable of thriving on this alien world. Not just surviving, but growing, learning, and mastering their environment. Later, as night fell over the Martian landscape, Jace walked through the colony alone, reflecting on everything he had experienced. The dome lights cast long shadows across the metallic walkways, and the stars above twinkled faintly in the thin Martian atmosphere. He thought about the first day, when he had carried groceries and met Dr. Corval in the lab. The memory seemed almost distant now. What had seemed like a simple errand had been the start of something far greater. It had led him to the exosuit, to training, to observing creatures, and finally to defending the colony. Each step had revealed a new layer of human potential: courage, ingenuity, and the ability to rise to any challenge. Jace stopped at the edge of the dome, looking out at the endless red desert beyond. The wind stirred faint dust storms, whispering across the barren rocks. The predators he had faced yesterday, and the ones he had studied over the past days, were still out there. But he no longer felt fear. Humans had faced worse. On Earth and beyond, humans had survived because of something deeper than strength, something unstoppable. Dr. Corval approached quietly, standing beside him. "You understand now, don't you?" she asked softly. Jace nodded. "Yes. Humans survive because we think, adapt, and protect each other. The suit helped, but it was our courage and intelligence that made the difference." She smiled, placing a hand on his shoulder. "Exactly. And now, others will follow in your steps. The colony will grow stronger. Not just because of technology, but because humans are extraordinary, adaptable, resilient, and courageous." Jace looked at the red horizon and felt a swell of pride and hope. Humanity had survived countless challenges to reach Mars. Now, even in this harsh, alien world, they would thrive, and he had played a part in that future. The night deepened, and the stars above seemed closer, twinkling like distant promises. Jace returned to his quarters, thinking of the colony, the volunteers, and the people he had protected. Every action, no matter how small, could ripple outward, influencing the survival and growth of humans on this planet. He remembered Dr. Corval's first words to him. "At last, it's just us." The meaning was now clear. It was not about isolation or secrecy. It was about trust, connection, and human potential. Together, humans could face the unknown, adapt, and triumph. And now, Jace understood that fully. As he lay down to rest, the red Martian sky stretched endlessly above, silent and infinite. But inside him, and inside every colonist, burned a fire that no dust storm or predator could extinguish: the fire of humanity, clever, brave, and unyielding. Mars was still dangerous. The predators would return. Dust storms would rage. Supplies would run low. But humans had survived worse, and now, with courage, ingenuity, and unity, they would not only survive, they would thrive. Jace closed his eyes, imagining the future, a colony stronger than ever, humans exploring the red deserts, learning, adapting, and growing. A new dawn awaited, and humanity was ready to meet it head-on. The wind whispered across the barren landscape, carrying the faint scent of iron and dust. The colony rested safely beneath its dome, and Jace drifted into sleep, dreaming not of fear, but of discovery, growth, and the unstoppable potential of humans. Because humans endured, humans adapted, humans thrived, and in the endless expanse of Mars, one small boy had discovered the truth that even ordinary humans could do extraordinary things. And in the quiet of the Martian night, Dr. Corval's words echoed again, now fully understood. At last, it's just us. It was never about solitude. It was about the power of humanity together, clever, brave, and unstoppable.